there, kids! In the last story, we read about the house builders, bricklayers, masons, and carpenters. They used bricks, stone, and wood to make houses in colonial America. We've learned so far how all the tradespeople in a town were important in their own ways. Everyone had a special job to do, but there was one person who made it possible for many of these people to do their jobs. I mean, you think about what kind of job could help everyone else do theirs well. Make a prediction or a guess of who that might be. Now, let's first go over our vocabulary. Our vocabulary word today is essential. Essential means necessary and important. For example, water and sun are essential to a growing plant. Now, let's read our story called The Blacksmith and see if your predictions are correct. Blacksmiths were some of the most important tradespeople in town because they made all the tools people needed to do their jobs. Were your predictions correct? Listen to all the things blacksmiths made and try to guess what they're made of. They made chisels for masons and hammers and nails for carpenters and cobblers. They made household items like kettles, cooking pots, candle holders, and other utensils. They also made horseshoes, or the curved pieces of metal nailed to horses' feet to protect them, hinges, knives and swords, locks and keys, and much more. You'd be surprised at the number of things people used in everyday life that came out of the blacksmith's shop. To do his work, a blacksmith needed 5 basic things. He needed some metal to work with, something to heat the metal in, something to move the hot metal from one place to another, something to put it on, and something to hit it with. Metal is a hard, shiny material that can conduct or carry heat and be melted and reshaped. Blacksmiths in early America worked mostly with iron. Iron is a very strong metal, but when it is heated in a fire, it becomes soft and pliable. That means it can be shaped into whatever shape the blacksmith wants. To heat the iron, a blacksmith used a special oven or fireplace called a forge, or a blacksmith's oven or fireplace. Most forges were simply open fire pits, like the ones in the first picture, so the blacksmith could work closely and easily with the metal he put in the fire. The most important thing was that the fire burned hot, so hot that it could melt metal. Once his forge was hot enough, the blacksmith would put a piece of iron in it. Because the forge was so hot, he had to use tongs. Tongs have 2 long metal arms connected by a hinge. By squeezing the 2 arms together, you can grab things without using your own hands. You may have tongs in your kitchen to pick up food. You can see the blacksmith using tongs in the picture. Tongs were an essential tool for the blacksmith, almost like a second pair of hands for him. They were both necessary and important. He couldn't do his job without them. The blacksmith would leave the iron in the forge until it was red hot, meaning that it actually got so hot that it turned bright red in the fire. Then he'd pull it out, using his tongs again to keep from burning his hands. After quickly removing the red-hot piece of iron from the fire, he placed it on the anvil and started to bang away at it with his hammer. In this picture you can see the anvil, the big block of metal on which the blacksmith shaped the iron. The blacksmith had to work quickly because the metal was only soft and pliable when it was red-hot. Once the iron cooled, it would harden. As long as the blacksmith kept the metal hot, he could shape it however he liked. He could make the metal longer or shorter, thicker or thinner. He could bend it and mold it into special shapes. In this picture you can see how the blacksmith is shaping a horseshoe. When he was happy with the size and shape of whatever he was making, the blacksmith would let the iron cool off, sometimes by plunging it into a bucket of cold water, and it would harden. What would make the iron harden faster, leaving it out in the air or plunging it into the cold water? Nice. Because the blacksmith lifted hammers and heavy iron pieces all day long, He was usually one of the strongest, toughest men in town. A blacksmith probably had more than his share of scars and burns from the hot metal he handled every day. Blacksmiths were often thought of as clever and resourceful people, meaning they were able to figure out how to fix things and make things work. If a person needed a special tool for a special job, chances were the local blacksmith could figure it out and make whatever was needed. Is anyone wondering where the name blacksmith came from? Well, the word smith comes from the word smite, which is another word for hit. And iron is black, so a blacksmith is a person who smites or hits black metal for a living. Today, machines do the work of blacksmiths, melting iron in large pots and pouring the hot metal into molds or shapes. For example, there is a mold for horseshoes. The good thing about using a mold is that no one gets burned and all the horseshoes come out the same. But we still appreciate the handmade iron work of the blacksmiths from years ago. No town in early America was without a blacksmith. He was the essential tradesperson in every town. The end. Now let's go over our discussion questions. Our first one is, what kind of metal do blacksmiths work with? What are the different steps that the blacksmith used to make a horseshoe? Why is the blacksmith so important to the people in a colonial town? In your journal, write and draw about which tradesperson you think is most important in the colonial town and why. Have these discussions with your family.